Hey, Wrestling fans, this is Birdman Coca Beware, and you listen to the Card Subject to Change podcast. That's right, you don't want to miss it, and I guarantee you, you can't beat it with a stick, you can't whip it with a switch. Don't even try! But sometimes love feels just right. It feels so real. It feels just like a power driver. Yeah, a power driver. That's what I'm talking about.
So me personally, I'm actually a lifer. I don't remember a time that I wasn't watching professional wrestling. Even my mom explains it to me as when I was a small child, you know, I would just stop in front of the TV and just sit and watch, and I'd just be quiet. It just totally zoned in. So I always been a wrestling fan. And as I get older and even learn more about the business, it's like I continue to fall in love with it for different reasons.
Just it blows my mind. And I'm like tugging on my mom's pants and stuff. And I'm like, Mom. And she's like, yeah, what? And I go, I want to do that. And I'm like pointing at the TV. Well, she looks and she goes, oh, you want to be like Macho Man and wear the cool sunglasses and say, oh, yeah, and do the elbow drop? And I go, no, I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Yeah.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We're back at you with another episode. I am your host, never wrong, Nick Bull. Joining me is my tag team partner, the co-champ of the For Frequency's Sake Network, the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing real good. I'm excited to talk about Forbidden Door. And I'm excited to have our good friend in the studio, Mr. Timothy Regal. Regal, how you doing today?
I am doing great, man. Just always happy to be on with you guys and chop up, as I kind of called it, the at the bar on Sunday, the not so forbidden door. But we'll get into that. Yeah, it's good. It was an interesting weekend in pro wrestling. So I am doing well.
Excellent. Lots to talk about. Before we get into the show, I have been asked to just talk a little bit. And Nick, I'm sorry to spring this on you here, but our tribal chief has asked me to talk about the network's Toys for Tots Fantasy Football League that is coming up. Regal, I know you participated last year. That is coming around the corner as football season draws near. Good program for a local charity. There's a lot of local celebrities involved, including one good friend of the podcast. He is a former Iowa Hawkeye fullback, and of course an SCW frequenter. I'm talking about, of course, the one called Manders. If you want to sign up for our fantasy football, that's coming up real soon here. You can go over to For Frequency's Sake on Facebook and X, or just look up FFSQC. Wanted to get that out of the way so that the higher power, who is not that other guy that we won't mention here on the network, doesn't chew me out for not bringing it up.
I'll just add to that, man. I was in it last year. Probably be in it this year. So you never know. You might get to play with me. But I'm not a celebrity, of course. I definitely had a lot of fun last year. I did fairly well for myself. I did not win the league, but I was really, really close. So I'm coming back this year hoping for a championship. So definitely help out where you can, because it's for a good cause, and we have a lot of fun and enjoy the life of fantasy football, which this network that we are on was kind of built on. So.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, we are not built on fantasy football. We are, however, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook. Country Financial. We are the podcast by the fans, for the fans, here talking all things pro wrestling, and today we've got a great episode. Gentlemen, let me just ask you, I'm going to throw this out there. The title of the show, Is This Door Still Forbidden? Is it still forbidden after 3 years?
So,
go ahead. Guess first.
Okay. So, as I kind of jokingly called it, I called it the not so forbidden door. I will start out by saying I thought this was an excellent professional wrestling show. But what I felt this show lacked was the pop, the OMG moment of the previous Forbidden Doors. I mean, last year, obviously, you had the Omega Ospreay match. You had the Danielson Okada match. Right off the top, the biggest problem that you have with Forbidden Door in 2024, you took the two biggest stars from last year's Forbidden Door and you signed them to an AEW contract. So those doors are no longer forbidden. And we'll get into this. I'll touch on it here, but we'll probably get into it more later. Right now, and I think this show kind of showed it, the New Japan roster depth just isn't there. There's no big star. I mean, you had Naito on this show, but I mean, you had Tanahashi, and we'll get into that. So I'm going to save my comments for that. But yeah, I think your biggest problem with why is this door maybe not so forbidden is you just didn't have the OMG moment. Because you didn't have that dream match that you had in previous years.
Yeah, I wanted to give AEW its flowers. I really rail on them from time to time on this show, but from top to bottom, front to back, start to finish, this was a fun show. I think it's their best pay-per-view they've put out this year. Now, the title's a little hokey now that the talent from Japan is all mostly in AEW and that the talent pool in Japan's a little bit smaller. But outside of, Forbidden Door, top to bottom, this show was excellent. I had a lot of fun watching it. I can just think of one match off the top of my head that, looking back on it, was kind of a stinker. But other than that, this show was entertaining. It was fun. It didn't have the Ospreay Omega from last year, like Tim said. So it lacked that. It lacked that match everybody was walking away with saying match of the year. However, I do think if Ospreay and Danielson hasn't happened yet, we'd be talking about Ospreay and Swerve right now and how good of a match that was. If you take away Ospreay and Bryan Danielson from earlier this year and in the special match that was, because to me, clearly that's match of the year right now, we would be talking about Swerve and Ospreay because I think, as an outsider looking in, I kind of had my expectations tempered for this match. But in my opinion, it exceeded my expectations. It really told a great story, and it ended up being a fantastic match. And like I said, if it wasn't for Danielson Ospreay, I think we'd be talking about this match as match of the year in AEW.
Do we want to start with the main event? Because I think that's a great place to start there, Nick. What do you say, CZ?
Yeah, let's go.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Honestly, like you said, I'm going to say it right now. The Bryan Danielson Ospreay match and the Swerve Ospreay match right now are my 1A, 1B for match of the year. Swerve Ospreay, while not a Forbidden Door match because it's two guys that are under AEW contract, is one of the top two matches of the year that we've seen. And this is 5 stars all the way. These are two guys that are just at the top of their game. Will Ospreay, I've said for years, the only reason Will Ospreay is not the best wrestler on the planet is because Bryan Danielson exists. But Ospreay is right there at this point with me. And anytime he's in the ring, especially in a big match situation like this, he's going to deliver. This match delivered. You had amazing athleticism. They told an amazing story. The Swerve hidden blade to Ospreay was possibly one of the sickest moments I think I've ever seen. And of course, it's Ospreay's move, so he's going to know how to sell it. But And then you have some great story that you're going to build off of this match. You have you got the thing with Don Callis. You had, for some reason, I don't know how Daniel Garcia couldn't get a better seat, but the 300 section, but maybe that was all they had.
You're telling me AEW couldn't get him a better seat? My goodness, man, he was up there in the nosebleeds.
couldn't put him in a luxury box. Couldn't get him some drinks and some popcorn. He was up there in the nosebleeds, man. Trying to pull off that Sting motif, and then you had Max watching on a monitor. So you're building stories with all of these guys. And for people who say one of the things you always hear, AEW doesn't tell stories. AEW doesn't tell stories. There's a lot. They told multiple stories in this match, and
they did.
Along with that, had a match of the year contender. So no, 5-star main event for me all the way.
I agree with everything you said there, Regal. I think when we look back, whenever Swerve's reign ends, this will be the match that everybody talks about. This is his match of his reign. I don't think he can go out there and have a better match. This match was that good. Like you said, it's right behind Danielson Ospreay. Of course, Ospreay's in this match. Yeah, the only reason why Will Ospreay's not the best wrestler on the planet because Bryan Danielson's still around. Not much longer. He's going to be retiring actively this year, so Ospreay maybe takes over that title. Quotes, retire wrestling. I know. It's a loose term. It's a loose term. These guys told a magnificent story. I think the shocker was people, I'm not lumping us all into one group, but wrestling fans as a whole, people thought All In, Wembley, Ospreay's going to be main eventing. Ospreay has to be champion. And what they did, they went out there and went against that. And there's a story going around. I know you shared it in our chat this morning, Regal, a chat that you have with Wizard myself, about how Will Ospreay wanted to make a point. He didn't want to be the placeholder for the main event and All In. He wanted to go out there and show the locker room, I guess, what you can do when you're professional and you work well with somebody else. I think he also, the thing I take away most from this story is, hey, if I'm willing to lose, you should be willing to lose too, to Swerve. So I think a lot is to be said about the maturity of Will Ospreay, and whether or not he's trying to be a locker room leader, I don't know. But this is a pretty good example of some maturity in wrestling and how when everybody works together, we can all get along and good things happen.
Agreed. The question, though, that comes to my mind, we're talking about everybody, all the wrestling pundits, all the wrestling fans are looking at All In and thinking, well, that's got to be Ospreay's crowning moment where he wins the title. Where do you put it? Where does he fall on the card, and who does he face at All In?
I think we're going with the international title because here's the thing. I'm going to say it. Old school philosophy. The money is in the chase, and I think you have a much better story to tell if you go long term. Here's the thing. Ospreay's going to be on the card. You're going to get Swerve versus the winner of the tournament, which I'll say I think somebody's going to come riding in on a horse for that one. Say that again. I think somebody's going to come riding in on a horse here real quick for that one.
Don't say that. I don't. That's what I don't want to happen. That's what I don't want to happen. It got brought up at my watch party the other night when we watched it here at the Highview Lounge about who's going to win the Owen Hart and who's going to face Swerve at All In. And I'm going to vomit. I'm going to vomit because I don't want that to happen.
I think it's going to happen, Nick. I think it's going to be the Hangman. As soon as the Bucks said they were picking the guy, I'm like, yep, it's Hangman coming back as a member of the Elite with a full-scale heel turn. And you do him and Swerve in the rematch at Wembley. You do I spitballed today, possibly something coming out of Wednesday where it turns into a triple threat match with Garcia, Max, and Ospreay. Because that's a big money thing to get Ospreay and MJF. Because I think because they've already announced the Ospreay and Daniel Garcia. I think Will gets added after the results of this and gets turned into a triple threat for the international title. Okay. And like I said, you can use that.
I'm excited to talk about this show, and now I can't freaking stop thinking about Hangman freaking headlining All In, dude. I don't want it. I don't want it.
See,
I can't be the only one that's this way. I can't be the only one that feels this way.
See, I'm a Hangman guy, so we're gonna disagree on this one. But I do think, like I said, money's in the chase, and you can tell a full year story, possibly winning the Continental Classic, doing all this stuff, where Will eventually builds up, and then next year Will comes out right as soon as they announce the Owen and says, "I'm in the Owen. It's my time. I'm going to Wembley to win the belt." And whether it's Max, Hangman, Swerve, whoever, Will can win the belt in 2025 at Wembley.
I know there's money in the chase. I get that philosophy. But I'm going to throw this one to you. I also think they're wasting Ospreay for a year. You sign this big name free agent, and instead of having him on the top of your company, you're going to have him chase. There's a bunch of what ifs can happen. What if he gets hurt and he never gets to the top, never has that chance? Then I think they're blowing an opportunity. I get what you're saying about money in the chase, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Why not make him the champion at All In?
Like we said, though, I think there's a bigger thing also with Will. I think he wants to be a locker room leader. And like you said, he kind of went and said, hey, let me make Swerve's title reign and show this locker room how it's supposed to be done when we work together. Because as we all know, and if you know where to look, it's out there that there's some people in that locker room who have the that doesn't work for me, brother, kind of mentality going around in that locker room. And I think Will came in and said, I'm not going to be that guy, and I'm going to show everybody, how it's supposed to be done, that we work together and we build this company. And I think that's where Will is at. Will is there to make the company better. And here's the thing. Ospreay to me is almost to the point where, like Brian, or somebody like that, he doesn't necessarily need the belt to be a top guy. Guys like that who will get that audience reaction necessarily don't need the world title. Now, you give him the world title at some point, but I think you have him build a much longer term story to it. That's where I think they're going.
Can I tell you why I don't like the Hangman Page recommendation? Here's why. I got a reason why I don't like it. I just can't see Hangman falling in line with the Elite after what they did to Kenny. To me, I would think that'd be against his character, against his own persona, and that he would be out to get the Elite when he comes back instead of wanting to join them.
My thing is he hates Swerve that much that even though he might not necessarily like what they did to Kenny, he's coming after Swerve because he hates Swerve. Because Swerve literally, people forget, Swerve's a babyface now, but a few months ago, it wasn't that long ago, Swerve invaded Hangman's home, okay? So there is still that that's looming over everything.
If I can make a counterpoint, though, has Swerve not beaten Hangman 3 times already?
Exactly.
I mean, exactly. I'm not a Hangman fan, but I'm not a detractor either. I'm kind of in the middle with Hangman. But
I'm not a Hangman hater. I just don't like this move. I just don't like this move. I'm telling you, if he joins the Elite, which he's going to, you've got 5 members of a faction, and none of them are intimidating. You got to get somebody in that group that's an actual ass kicker and brings your group some credibility. That's my opinion. I do not hate Hangman Page, but he's lost to Swerve 3 times. And now he's going to be the champion at All In.
The only other person that I could kind of see, what if it's Wardlow?
Over Swerve? Or how, Wardlow joins the Elite?
Yeah. You said you need an ass kicker.
I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed. They'd be using him. He'd be getting used. That's good.
And let's be honest, the Undisputed Kingdom is colder than a plate of piss.
Yes. Very much
Yes.
so. I mean, they'll have to find whatever rug that they swept Wardlow under and dig him out from there, but I'm not opposed to that. I think he'd be a great addition because he's an ass kicker. He brings value to the group, and he brings that intimidation factor because he can.
Do we all remember how over he was when he was power bombing MJF like 29 times? I've said it before. People were throwing babies in the crowd. They were so happy. They were into him. I think they could get into a heel version of him.
They had him right there.
I'd be cool with that if he joined the Elite. I would. Though I'm not a fan of the Elite, him joining the Elite gives him exposure. It gives them muscle, and then he's getting noticed again. I mean, come on. I like that more than the Hangman angle myself.
The only other question that I have, though, is if not Hangman, who? I can make an argument for Bryan Danielson because he's in the tournament. He won his match as part of the tournament, and they haven't really given him a push. They've made points on every show that Danielson has been on in saying that he has been a champion every single place he's been. Except AEW.
I think part of that's him. I don't think he wants a championship. I know we as fans, as outsiders, I say that I think Will Ospreay should be the champion right now. I think Bryan doesn't want it. I agree with you. I think he should have it at some point. But I like what you said, CZ. You said about Bryan winning the Owen Hart. Hey, you want to legitimize your champion's run? What's wrong with Bryan Danielson? Swerve picking up a win over the American Dragon in London would be huge, would it not?
I think you're absolutely right. That is definitely something that is also, I think, very much in play. Is if they are very serious about building up the Swerve title reign. I mean, Ospreay went to put him over. I think if you have Bryan go out there and absolutely crush it with Swerve, which you know they would, it would be an amazing match, and then have Bryan put him over clean. I think then you really do make Swerve as a guy. So I think that is where that is also a very, very, very big possibility. Obviously, we'll kind of see as the weeks go forward. But interesting. But anyway,
it's great to have these possibilities. Like right now, maybe the AEW title picture has never been hotter than it is right now. And who would have thought that, who would have thought that with all the there's some key players that have been gone. MJF just recently came back, but the title picture is hot right now. It's a good time. It's a good time in AEW to be a fan of AEW. We're sitting here talking about it. Couple possibilities for the All-In main event. They have the benefit of 2 months before the next show, give or take. What is it, like a month and a half, almost 2 months to All-In now. They got plenty of time to make a card. They've got plenty of time to get a plan in place. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But man, I think you're right, Regal. I think it's gonna be Hangman winning the wild card, maybe a Hangman Bryan final, which would be an absolute good match, and then Hangman goes on the main event All In. That I could see that. He's 0-3. He's 0-3. He's 0-3 against Swerve.
Segue back to Forbidden Door because you mentioned Max. MJF versus Hechicero. I don't know what you guys thought of this. Obviously, Max gets the huge. I understand why this opened the show. Max gets the huge pop. He's in Long Island. He comes out with the New York Islanders Mets colors gear. Here's the thing with this match. It was great. It was a very good match. But Hechicero, for those of you who might not know Lucha, Hechicero is kind of a niche guy of a niche product. Like, he's kind of like, you want to talk about for the sickos, Hechicero is a guy that is 100% for the sickos. I thought this match was fine. I think Hechicero kind of worked Max style of match because Max, and they did a little bit of grappling and they did some of the stuff. But I think, and obviously, you're not going to have Max go under here in any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's the first thing that hurts the match is Nobody in that building is going to believe that Max is losing. Everybody watching on TV is not going to believe that Max is losing that match at any point. At no point in that match did we feel like Max was in any real danger. Other than that, I thought the match was fine.
And I'll just throw this out there. I enjoyed the match, but it really, with his opponent, with it opening the card, and with so much going on this card, it was a forgettable MJF match, in my opinion. In fact, it was one of the few matches that didn't come into my mind as I was prepping to come in here and talk about Forbidden Door.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest match ever, no. It wasn't the greatest MJF match ever. Second match back now, right? Am I right? That's the second match back. He had a match with Roosh. On Dynamite a few weeks back, last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm interested in Hechicero. I really don't know a lot about him. Maybe I wish we could have seen more of him on the lead up to know more about him. But the match ended kind of abruptly with the brain buster finish. But you're right, Regal. Everybody and their dog knew MJF was going over. It was good to come out, get him to, put the feelers out in the crowd, get the crowd into it. But I mean, the match moved along. It was over pretty quick. I kind of looked up. I'm like, is it over? But I guess we'll get more out of MJF as he gets back into the swing of things, gets the ring rust knocked off. But not the greatest MJF match in the world, but not horrible. I thought it was a good fast opener.
Yeah, good quick opener. I guess should we go in order? Next match.
Might as well. I mean, we've been talking about them.
We can do that.
Well, because I want to talk about that 6-man for one reason, and that is
sure.
Bro, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan, was the best wrestler in the world possibly for about a decade, maybe longer. That was painful to watch. As a fan who watched
Daddy Ace.
And that's fine, and that's fun and all that. But I mean, you could just see and it's one of those things, the mind is there and it wants to do it, but the body can't do it anymore. He is literally Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Hiroshi Tanahashi. You can be the greatest in the world. You can be one of the smartest, most intelligent players in the world. In this case, wrestlers. The one opponent that Peyton Manning couldn't beat, that Tom Brady couldn't beat, and that Hiroshi Tanahashi can't beat is Father Time. And it was not great. He can still put it together, but you could just see when he did even the flip over leg drop, some of the signature spots, he just does not have it anymore. I think I called the high fly flow the somewhat high flow. I can't remember what I exactly called it, but it was he used to get a little bit more air on that move than he does now. I thought this match was fine. You're building up and I called it really as they were coming to the ring. I said, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to have Tanahashi and Okada circle up, and then Okada's going to turn around and tag out, which is exactly what they did. A classic heel move. But it's so weird because the Bucks come out, they get heel heat, and then Okada comes out to a massive pop, even though he's a heel. So
yes.
Let me ask you this, Regal. Does the aging of Hiroshi Tanahashi hurt New Japan even more when we see that the big name talent isn't quite there like it was at the first Forbidden Door, since they've come over and signed with AEW now?
I mean, I don't think it hurts them. I mean, and everybody, if you've watched Eddie Tanahashi wrestles somewhat infrequently now in New Japan, and he's actually the 6-man open weight tag team champs with Oleg Boltin and might be Ishii. But it's so he works down the card. He works in 6-mans primarily, and of course he is the legitimate president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is
Correct.
the day-to-day operations manager of New Japan at this point. And obviously, he's transitioning into that role, but yeah, it's even in a 6-man tag, it's rough to watch at this point. And the fact that the decline came, I feel, very fast. Like 2 years ago at Forbidden Door, he was still very, very good, and now it's just he is looking very tired out. The bump card's full at this point.
For sure.
I actually enjoyed this match a lot. I thought, the Acclaimed and the Young Bucks have something in recent weeks. You've got Okada in there to balance out the Tanahashi threat. Really, I like this match, and everybody knows I'm not a fan of the Young Bucks, but I thought it was an excellent match. I thought it did its job. It wasn't a stinker. It was entertaining. I liked it. I really liked what this match did. I thought the Acclaimed looked really good in this match. I really think Anthony Bowens doesn't get enough credit for the in-ring worker that he is turning into. I really think he's really turned a corner and is the reason why they're so good in the ring. I know Max is on the mic, but Anthony Bowens to me is one of the better in-ring workers, or becoming one of the better in-ring workers in that company. Excuse me, in my opinion.
No, for sure. I can agree with that. I'll give you that.
He is very, very good. There's no doubt about that.
So while we're talking,
I wasn't surprised with. We're talking about the 6-man, right? I was just going to say I wasn't surprised how it ended. Kind of figured it end that way. Okada looking strong. The Acclaim still hot on the Bucks' tails for the tag belts whenever that match is going to happen. I thought it was fine. I liked it. I thought it served its purpose well. 2 for 2 so far for AEW on the pay-per-view.
I want to touch on something, and this not talk about the match itself. I want to talk about the Elite, and I just want to ask your opinion, because one of your huge top stars in Japan has now come over in Kazuchika Okada, and I just feel like he could be doing so much more than he is.
So here's the thing I'm going to say. The time for that will come. I am not worried about that at all. I think everybody kind of just there's been some kind of panic button hitting over Okada because he kind of became the has the catchphrase and you wait for him to say bitch. But
right.
Here's the thing: he's still Okada. He's still great, and when it comes time, he will flip the switch. I mean, he is the Continental Crown champion. He ran through that and had great matches in that. So when he needs to flip that switch and turn it on, he can. That is not a problem. And I think there's been a little bit of panic button hitting a little bit over that I am not worried about, because Okada's not young, but he's still got a lot of time left in his career. And there's still plenty of time for him to hit that point. He's not going
anywhere.
Say
that's okay. I can agree with that, and I'll be patient. I will say one of my favorite parts of this whole feud between the Elite and the Acclaimed is when the Elite came out and Caster's mic got shut off, and you go back to Okada. I'm so sorry, I pressed the wrong button. that was a brilliant move. I thought that was hilarious. Bitch. Oh, where do we want to go next, gentlemen? Actually,
we're going to go to my low-key favorite. We're going to go to my low-key favorite match going into this card that I was really looking forward to watching, and that was Shingo Tagaki and Bryan Danielson. It's kind of like the Bryan Danielson farewell tour. I didn't think he was going to lose this match. I just wanted to see these two beat the crap out of each other, and they did. And it was a fun match, and it was satisfying, and I really enjoyed it. I had expectations for this match going in. It lived up to them. Both guys look great. I like watching Shingo work. The few opportunities I do get to see him. I don't have a New Japan subscription or anything, but I've seen him in other stuff in the past. And when I've watched, the Wrestle Kingdom this past year, I think he's a good performer, and put him in there with the best in the world, and they made some magic. I really like this match, and I'm like, wow, we're an hour deep in this pay-per-view, and it's pretty good so far. And I thought both these guys really really took it to the next level. And props to Bryan Danielson and Shingo Takagi for what I think was a great match at Forbidden Door.
This to me was the most Forbidden Door match on Forbidden Door, because you had Bryan versus Shingo. Shingo, not exactly a guy who was on the Okada level, but a guy that the hardcore fans, myself included, absolutely love. Shingo, honestly, one of my favorite guys in New Japan. The stuff that he did a couple years back with Will Ospreay is some of the best matches I think I've ever enjoyed. But Shingo is just an absolutely amazing talent. I go all the way back to his days as a Dragon Gate guy when he came over on excursion to Ring of Honor. So I've been on that train for a long time. And then when Dragon Gate was going downhill and he showed up in New Japan, I was super excited. Let him play the Power Junior for a bit, gave him a junior best of the Super Junior win, gave him a junior title, and then they had him move up to heavyweight. And he's been the IWGP champion once. Always up near the top of the card. And yeah, this match, as soon as they said it, boom, right on, and it was fantastic. Bryan and Shingo, just two of the best guys out there, went out there, just had an absolutely amazing match. Again, problem with this match, though, I think kind of was it's in the Owen Hart tournament, so you kind of knew that Bryan was going to go over here because Bryan is probably making it to the finals of that tournament. If he doesn't win the tournament, he's going to put over whoever is winning the tournament, and probably in the final.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's
correct. I love your comment about this. I loved your comment, Regal, about this was the most Forbidden Door match on Forbidden Door. It did have that feel, and it did feel that way. But yeah, I agree with that line of thinking. I'm kind of along the same boats there, same lines there.
Well, gentlemen, before we go any further, I think we need to take a quick time out, pay some dues to our sponsors and our brethren on the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network. And when we come back, we have our weekly segment with most of us are friends with JT Energy, Moment of Focus. We'll get to that in just a minute, but stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Football season may be over, but For Frequency's Sake still has you covered for all your sporting needs. Tune in every Sunday when the best professional wrestling podcast around, Cards Subject to Change, gets you caught up on everything inside the ropes. They won't miss a count with weekly analysis and interviews. More into auto racing? We've got a double dose for you on the track. Tune in to Fast Money with Rod Villagomez each week and win some money with the quickest bets in all of sports. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your basketball fix? Points in the Paint has you covered with live shows every other week looking at everything in the association. Backed by popular demand, we have the return of The Payoff Pitch, FFSQC's baseball show, covering you on news around the MLB. If you're missing football, don't fret. Mark and Dan still have you covered in the football lounge. Missing Joe Winkle? Probably not, but he's still here talking sports on Educated Ignorance. Football season might be over, but we've still got you covered. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
For Frequency's Sake is brought to you by Durham Remodeling, serving the Quad City area's remodeling and repair needs since 1973. Clint's Draft House, grab a bite and a pint. 7th Street, Moline. Lopez, New York-style pizza served up by the slice or pie, Davenport. Lifted Energy, energy drinks, coffee, donuts, and more. #GetLifted. Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Sports cards and memorabilia, vintage clothing, hats, pennants, and more. Ryan Allison Tattoo. Step into the vibrant world of tattoos with Ryan Allison. And A Cut Above, offering quality custom woodwork designed specifically around our customers.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
Nick gonna serenade us with a song that probably has copyrights to it, and we're gonna get in trouble if he continues.
We can only sing. We can't. We just 10-second clips.
Fun fact: we actually just started carrying the complete series of Welcome Back, Cotter at the place I work, and the young kid I work with had no clue what the show was. So,
that's too bad.
It's time for a little Regal education, if you will.
Trust me, I have to tell those young kids so much stuff. You work with younger people, man. There's some kids out there that don't understand that music was around before 2010. Some days it's like, Come on. Just like I got to educate them about the wrestling, I got to educate them about movies, TV, and music too.
Just a whole cornucopia.
Hey, if you're not going to do it, who is?
There.
Exactly.
All right. Before we get back into Forbidden Door, let's turn things over to our good friend JT Energy with his moment of focus. No. You're going to want to pay attention to this one, Regal. You'll trust me.
Oh, okay.
Regal throwing shade?
A little bit, but don't worry. Here's JT Energy.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And today, the boys, they are talking about AEW's Forbidden Door. You know what we're going to focus on? We're going to focus on leaving that door open. That door to everything in our lives. Don't be closed-minded. Don't shut things out. Don't shut yourself away. Leave yourself and that door open for opportunities, friendships, relationships. Make sure to not cut yourself short by making sure you lock those doors behind you. Always keep them open because you never know when you might need to turn around and go back or find that one in front of you and open it up. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. Oh, and Regal, I hate you.
Regal, I think you got heat because you're not calling his moves right. Whenever he hits that Christian Cage finisher, it is the unkittier, not the unprettier. I think that's why you got heat, but don't quote me on that.
Oh, Mr. Energy.
I felt like JT was talking to me there. Not to I need to keep this door open. Maybe I need to keep this door open on the Hangman Swerve thing. Maybe I need to keep that door open and opportunities will arise. We'll see.
I will pay Mr. Energy a compliment for a moment, even though me and him do not like each other. That was very good advice. So that's actually a good piece of a moment of focus for Mr. Energy. Now, he doesn't like me. I don't like him. We've had heat for a long time. You know, he dresses like a cat. I don't know what that's about. But, that is good advice, guys. I definitely do 100% support that. That is a philosophy that I've always tried to live by as well. Except for JT Energy. If JT Energy is behind me, I'm slamming the door every time.
Friends of the circle, glad you're tuned in with us here on the Card Subject to Change podcast by the fan. Hello. Hope all's going well with you. Hope all well is going everybody who tuned in tonight. We're talking Forbidden Door, of course. We left off with Danielson, Shingo Tagaki. What was next on the card? I don't remember the order.
What was next would be the AEW women's title match between Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, with Mariah May presenting flowers to both ladies before the match. So,
fellas, just let me say, we all win here. We all won with this match.
I mean, I was trying to figure a way to put it, and I'm going to start out right. I'm going to start actually talking about the wrestling first. I thought this was a great match. I really did. Toni Storm has figured this character out. At first, there was a point where I think she was going a little too far into the gimmick, but now she's kind of pulled it back just enough where when the bell rings and it's time to go, she turns back into serious, like, wrestler version of Toni Storm. Mina Shirakawa, I wish they would have had her wrestle more in the build-up to this match, like, giving her a few wins on Dynamite, because she actually, I've watched some of her stuff from Stardom, tag team with Mariah May, obviously, and she is a very, very good, very capable performer in the ring, and she proved it here. Now, my one complaint on this match, just like a match we had on a previous pay-per-view from WWE, you had a really good match going on in the ring, but you kept going to the outside, watching Mariah make the faces, just like they did during the Sammy Chad Gable match, where I literally was to the point where I was infuriated because they wouldn't stop showing Maxine making the face. And I felt we kind of got, not as bad, but we kind of got a little close to that here. But the match, really good match, told a very good story. And then the after match, yeah, that was the thing that happened. And I'm very interested to see where this storyline goes going forward, because obviously there was a lot had already been made about this match and this angle being very fan serviced, if you will. They definitely fed into that even more after this match. And if you saw the videos that were on YouTube afterwards, let's just say there is literally a video where they are walking to the car, and Mariah May has a hand on both backsides of Mina Shirakawa and Timeless Toni Storm.
Seen that.
That's like Nick said. I'll just say, believe it or not, we all won. I'll just say there was a really big cheer in Lopez Pizza when we did the thing.
There was a pretty big cheer at the Highview as well.
It was everybody.
We were all pretty happy here. I want to go back to a moment in this match, and I just want to put over how far I think he's come and how good I think he is, and how much better I think he's going to become as Nigel McGuinness as an announcer. He's my all-time favorite Ring of Honor talent. I'm bummed we don't get to see him in the ring, period, okay? I'm over that. But I enjoy him on commentary. When Tony comes out as a Statue of Liberty, so majestic. Just the one-liners that he delivers them. He's got great delivery. He's got great timing. I just hope they keep him around, man. I think he is great at calling matches.
And not afraid to kind of say some stuff that might get a little bit racy when he, I believe the line at the end was, I need a tissue, and I'm not talking about for my eyes.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I don't know what you guys are talking about. In my opinion, friends can have a three-way kiss after a good match. That's what friends are for. I wouldn't personally do it with either of you gentlemen. No offense, but it's a thing that can happen.
I mean, it can, and in this case, it definitely did. No, I think all three of these ladies are great. Anybody who's obviously, you guys know, and anybody who's talked to me knows, I've been on the Mariah May train since before day one. I actually knew Mariah before she was even in wrestling training through the internet. So, but she is fantastic. She is and I think she is very capable in the ring. And I think I'm calling it right now. I think she's winning the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament. I think it's her, and I think we're getting the payoff to this all in. And I've said it before. If you know your classic movies, you kind of know where the storyline is going. The ingenue at one point has to usurp the star. So I think we're heading down the tracks on that one.
I can agree.
Our friend Stryker chiming in here. He thought this match, the Toni Storm title defense, was the better women's match of the night in his eyes. We'll stick around here. We'll talk about the TBS championship match here in a few moments. What was next on the card? Do you guys have any other closing remarks? Any other? I enjoyed this match. It was entertaining. It was fun. I had a good time. Will agree with you, Regal. They went to the outside a little too much, but I wasn't complaining because they were going out to Mariah May and they weren't wasting time. They were definitely going over to her. So, I mean, if you're going to go outside the ring, put it on the eye candy. We all can live another day.
Next up was actually my probably second favorite match of the night. Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. Again, kind of what the more forbidden door of the forbidden door here. Zack is a guy in New Japan, and I think they're getting ready to start the rocket to him. a lot of scuttlebutt online that he possibly could be the favorite to win this year's G1 because he has not held the IWGP title at any point in his career, and this could be his time. I thought this match was excellent. You know, obviously we've seen it before, man. Orange does the gimmick, he does the bits with the stuff, but when it's time, there's not a lot of guys in that ring, I think, that are better than he is, and they absolutely wrestled the hell out of this match. I thought it was excellent and amazing. And I'm just going to say this. What the hell was that finish? Because you had limbs on top of limbs on top of limbs turned in ways that no human being ever should. I don't know what you even call that. It literally was the human pretzel submission. Yes. And how in the hell Orange Cassidy didn't tear every muscle in his body, I don't know. You cannot tell me that didn't hurt like hell, because your body just isn't meant to bend like that. I think Orange Cassidy might actually be a Stretch Armstrong.
I was thinking to myself, just before show, driving around today, thinking about the show, what we were going to talk about. And I was thinking to myself, why is Zack Sabre Jr. still in Japan? Maybe he likes it. Maybe the money's good. You think he can make more money over here. But I think you're right, Regal. I think they're going to strap a rocket to him and put him in the heavyweight division. Whether he wins the G1 or not remains to be seen. But I think he's in that title picture within the next year. I think he's that big of a star. He's that good of a talent. God, he's so good. He's so fun to watch too. If you're a fan of mat-based wrestling and the submission moves, he is so good. And he carries off that cocky smirk heel persona to a T. He's fun to watch. He's one of my favorite wrestlers to watch in the ring, period. Doesn't matter who he's wrestling, who he's going against. I just love watching him work. And I definitely can see him as a future IWGP champion. I hope so. I hope so for his sake.
And I'll be honest, I went into this cold card. I went into this pay-per-view and I'm thinking, what match do I really want to see the most? And this was it. I love everything Orange Cassidy does. I think he's fantastic. He brought the international championship to the height that it is at and made it a worthwhile title for AEW. And on the other side, Zack Sabre Jr. has always been one of my low-key favorites. I think he's brilliant. And I hope they do strap a rocket to him. Take him to the moon, because he deserves to be there. He has shown it time and time again. And I can't wait to see him with a world title around his waist, because no one deserves it more, in my opinion.
Nick, you said, why isn't he on TV? Why is he signed? So, for the thing with Zack Sabre Jr. is, to his credit, this is a guy who a couple years back bet on himself. This is a guy who was in the Cruiserweight Classic, if you remember, and WWE offered him that 205 Live contract, and he was one of the guys who said, wait a minute, I don't want to be just pigeonholed as just a Cruiserweight. And he declined that contract and sent himself off to New Japan because he did not want to be. He did not look at himself as just a cruiserweight. Is he kind of a smaller guy? Yes. Is he way better than just being a cruiserweight? Absolutely. Which, if he decided taking that WWE contract, we all saw what happened with 205 Live. It was there for about a month, and then Vince McMahon tried to flush it down the crapper as soon as he could.
Right. We know where that went.
Yeah. So, absolutely, I think he did the right thing, and I think he's going to finally get rewarded in New Japan. It's going to be his time. Does that mean we don't? I think he's very happy doing Japan, doing Rev Pro in the UK. I think he's one of those guys. He could always do, some stuff here and there for AEW, but I think it's one of those things where I think he's going to be a top guy for New Japan going forward.
You're listening to the Card Subject to Change podcast by the fan for the fan. We're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We are joined by the play-by-play voice of SCW Pro Wrestling, the one, the only Tim Regal. He is joining us breaking down Forbidden Door. I'm never wrong. Nick Bull, thank you for joining us. Of course, joined by the man himself, the Wizard CZ. Wizard, where are we at on discussion of? Oh, you're looking. You're right there. You're right there. It's right in front of you.
I'm right here.
Where are we on? Where are we on the card? Where are we to next? Are we to the TBS championship?
Nope, not quite there yet. We got a couple matches before the TBS. This, I'm just gonna throw this out there. This match would have been fine on a Dynamite. You both know I'm a huge Jericho fan and always have been. And I love that Jericho can turn himself into a heel by thinking he's not, by thinking he is the greatest guy ever. Because I look back to Collision Saturday, and he's just walking around the arena. Hey guys, did you wash your hands? With somebody coming out of the bathroom and just being overly friendly to the point where he is obnoxious, and I love it. But I think this match could have been on a Dynamite or a Collision and saved a little more time for somebody else, in my opinion. Nothing against Samoa Joe, Hook, Shibata, fantastic. Always love his work. Nothing against Jeff Cobb and Big Bill. I think they're great stars. This doesn't have pay-per-view caliber matched implications to me. It just doesn't.
I agree with CZ for the most part. I do think this match was actually very fun and very good. Like you said, CZ, Jericho, his ability to reinvent himself is probably one of might be the greatest asset of his career. Keep in mind, there was a point there where Jericho was getting booed. You know, people thought he was stale. There was some out of the ring stuff that had come out. But he flipped it. He changed himself up. He refreshed himself once again. And there's a lot of people out there, I feel like they don't want to like this, but he's so good at it that you can't not like it. And that is talent. Obviously,
I did not like it at first, but I get it. I get it, and it's funny. It pops me now.
And it clearly,
at first I wasn't a fan of it.
For anybody unaware out there, it started out basically as a parody of CM Punk. But he's actually developed it even further. If you don't realize that it is the kind of it was a parody of Punk at first, but then it's kind of morphed into where it is now, and he is absolutely fantastic at it. I love that they come out of the babyface tunnel. Like, that's so great that the whole gimmick is that he legitimately thinks he's the good guy. Yeah. It's so perfect. And it is completely perfectly for Jericho at this point in his career. Like you said, CZ, I do agree this match would have been fine on a Collision or a Dynamite, or but I do think the match itself was fine. And the biggest thing is, this is rehabbing Hook. You're putting him with Joe. You're putting him with Shibata, two guys that are over with the fans, and it's making him cool again. After there was that period where he had kind of cooled off. And I think you're getting them out there. They're clearly having fun with this trio. I absolutely love the Shibata with the Google Translator gimmick. I
like your necklace.
I loved him being the cameraman when they were beating up the premier athletes. Yeah, I think this is a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, we have maybe shaved it off, given some time to another match, or maybe just hell, even if you cut 15 minutes off the pay-per-view, I would have been even happier. But no, I thought this match was perfectly fine.
Stryker brings up a good point. Stryker and I were talking off about this, I think, yesterday. And I kind of told him I thought there was too many 6-man tags on the pay-per-view. And he just said he thought there was the same thing. And this was one of the matches that could be taken away, was a 6-man. You know what? At the time when the card came on, when it was advertised on the show, I'm like, oh, this doesn't need to be on the show. But the fact that it was on the show, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a crappy match. It had its entertaining moments. But I see what you're saying. It should have been on Dynamite. Give time to another match. I get that. Regal makes a great point. They're trying to make Hook cool again after that time that he cooled off. Seems to be they're doing the right thing. He's with Samoa Joe, who's cool, and everybody likes Shibata for the Google Translator and his in-ring skills. So smart move on their part to put Hook with those two, group him with them. And Jericho, he reinvents himself. That's why he's so good. That's why he's had such a great career. That's why he's had such a long career. And he found another way to do it. In AEW's 5-year history, he's done it 3 times now. I mean, that's remarkable. And he's done a good job at each one of them. So props to all 6 guys involved here. This match could have been on Dynamite, but didn't bring the pay-per-view down in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion.
No, I don't think it did either. It just it would have been better served on one of the weekly shows. Our next match, I just want to say, I don't think anyone watching this pay-per-view had any doubt who was walking away with the TNT Championship. The question going into this match is, who is going to do something so incredibly insane that they are not walking out of this match alive? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And I think Chicken wins. Or my boy Chicken is going to win that award for this match.
Hey, I'm just happy Dante Martin walked away after this match. We know his history with ladder matches and what happens. Holy smokes! I'm just glad he's still alive and fully intact.
There was a spot where he took like a suplex on his neck on a ladder, and I legitimately cringed. I'm like, oh no, not again. Thankfully, he appeared to be fine. But
you're right. Mark Briscoe took the brunt, I think, of the punishment in this match.
Yeah. No, Briscoe was going all out, just doing crazy stuff. Like the through the table on a ladder, like the jumping onto the ladder to put the guy through the table type spots. I thought, like, we all knew who was winning. We all knew that it was going to be the Jungle Boy. I'm not going to call him what I call him just for fun, but we all knew Jack Perry was winning this. But I will say, for someone the ladder match has been done to death, especially in the other company, but this is what these matches are supposed to be. Just 8 guys just going out there, just doing crazy stuff over and over and over and over again. Crazy bumps, crazy ladder spots. I thought everybody got a moment to shine in there. Leo Rush did great. I thought ELP. I am a guy who's super high on ELP. I know some people are kind of an ELP, a guy who's going to have to kind of re-find himself now that he doesn't have a tag team partner anymore. I did notice that they talked about him losing his tag team partner, but you notice they did not mention the tag team partner by name.
Correct. No mention of Hikuleo. A former AEW. He's appeared on AEW programming. You thought maybe they would have said that.
No mention of the soon-to-be Tala Tonga.
Tala
Tonga. But no, I thought this match was good. I will say Alex McCarthy calls ELP great value Logan Paul.
He does have that look. He does have that look. He does.
I actually say ELP. I said ELP looks like Kenny Omega and Logan Paul had a love child.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally see it.
While we're talking about this match, I just want to point something out of the entire pay-per-view. This is one of 2 matches where it would have happened. We didn't see any blood through this entire show.
We did
no
not.
Blood, nobody. And even that, the only ref bump we saw through the entire show was in the main event, which we talked about earlier. So very rare occurrence for AEW, a pay-per-view without blood and only 1 ref bump. I thought that was refreshing. I'll say that. I thought it was refreshing. But of all the matches that it would have happened in,
maybe that goes into your thinking, or maybe that's why I think it's the best pay-per-view they've done this year. Maybe that goes into it. I don't know. That's a good thing to think about. There wasn't any blood. There was only 1 ref bump. Sometimes that stuff gets done too much instead of when it's necessary or when the moment's too big. And I think they've done more than their fair share of that in the past. So maybe it was refreshing. This was a refreshing pay-per-view. This is a pay-per-view in the future where I'm like, I'm in the mood to watch an AEW show. What should I pop in? It'll be this pay-per-view. Because from top to bottom, I don't think there was one clunker of a match we haven't got to yet. Otherwise, it was a very solid show. And it has a match of the year contender on it as well. I mean, I just really had a good time watching this show and was rewatching it here before we went on and didn't skip anything. It's good. It's a really good show. Props to them.
Yeah.
I will say, Nick, there's a clunker of a match, and we're getting closer to it.
Yes, we are.
I think I'm going to shock some people when I tell you the clunker of the show. But I will tell you,
I'm guessing it's not.
I'm looking forward to discussing it with you. I got a great question I want you guys to answer, and I read an article about it, but we'll get to that match. That match is coming, I promise.
I'm going to tell you something. It's not the next match. So
No, it's not the next match. It only leaves one possible match then.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next match here. The Card Subject to Change podcast by the fan, for the fan. We're breaking down Forbidden Door here with our good buddy Tim Regal. We're powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We want to thank all of our sponsors for hopping aboard and riding with the Card Subject to Change train as we power into here. We are about a month away from year 2. We've been doing this. So this is, it's been fun. Nights like this are why it's fun. We get to talk wrestling. That's what this was for, just to get on here and discuss wrestling, and we're breaking down this show. Next match, if I'm not mistaken, on the Forbidden Door card is the TBS Championship, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If us three were filling out a list before the show and going confidence points for each match, this would have been my second highest confidence behind Jack Perry winning the TNT title.
Yes.
No way in hell was Mercedes Moné going to lose.
No.
No way.
I will.
No way in hell.
I will say something though. Can I go ahead first, or Nick? You go to or?
Oh,
you
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no. You're the guest, man. Yes, go first.
Okay, so this I said Orange and Zach was my second favorite match of the show. I actually have this as my third favorite match of the show. Okay. And yeah, Mercedes. Okay. We all knew Mercedes was winning, but what you saw in this match, Stephanie McCool made herself a star in one night. Stephanie McCool, yes. If you paid attention to New Japan Strong or CMLL, this woman is the real deal. She is absolutely fantastic. This honestly might be the best Mercedes Moné match I've ever seen. And Stephanie McCool looked like $1 million. I absolutely love this match. Even though you knew who was winning, they got you to bite on some near falls. Stephanie McCool looked like $1 million. And there is no way that pretty soon she either isn't getting the All Elite graphic or Uncle Paul is backing the truck up with a load of money to get her to come over to WWE, because she is that good. She has the look, she has the talent, she has the athletic ability. Don't really know if she can talk yet, but you can always work on that. Everything else, she checks every single box. This was a star-making performance for Stephanie McCool. Made Mercedes look like $1 million, legitimized that title reign. Absolutely fantastic match. Probably my third best match on the show.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned...
Rico, I want to ask you. You said this is your... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, where do you see her? If you were making the pick, do you see her taking the big truck full of money with Uncle Paul, or do you see that AEW graphic? Where would you put her?
It's literally 50-50 for me, and she's going to get to write that ticket. She's going to get the one that's going to get to make that decision. For me, it's a 50-50. She's going to be great. I think she has the potential to be great wherever she goes. Obviously, AEW, you're going to slide her right into the top. WWE, she's going to have to work for it a little bit more, but I think she still gets there. She's still very, very young, age-wise, still very athletic. The bump card's not too full. There's still plenty of time there. I don't know where she ends up. Like I said, literally for me, it's 50-50. But I see her being a star wherever she goes.
For sure, for sure. And of course, she's going to have
going
to.
back
She
on what
goes
you
with the
said.
WWE. Sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just you said something that kind of made me perk up. You said that's the best Mercedes Moné match you've seen. Is that better than any Sasha Banks match you've seen, or are you saying that's the best match you've seen of her?
It's definitely up there. I'll say that.
Sure.
It might not be the best match of her career, but it's up there as a top one. And like I said, this is the best we've seen of this iteration. This is definitely by far the best Mercedes Moné. It's probably one of the best Sasha Banks matches. It's up there. This was an excellent effort from her.
I just wanted to clarify it from you. I just wanted to clarify. When I go back and rewatch, that's probably the match I'll pay the most attention to. I'm not there yet on the rewatch, but I thought both ladies were very good in this match. It's going to be interesting to see where she ends up. Like you said, she's got the keys in her hand. She can go where she wants. Mercedes Moné did look good in this match, which I felt was very important, more so for Mercedes, because she kind of had been unimpressive so far in that AEW run, in my opinion. This kind of solidifies her in that company with having a breakout match like this. So I had no problem with this match. I thought where it went on the card was great. I thought the booking of the show was perfect. I don't think they could have booked this show any better. Stacking of the card, I really thought they stacked it really well, and props to their production for that.
You know, we're gonna go to the next match, and I hate to have this match where it is because we usually try and put something in our main event that's worth talking about as the main event. But I know I see the look on your face, Tim, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Naito and Jon Moxley. So you go right ahead.
So you said, here's the thing. There's some talking points here, but boy, oh boy. Okay. This match was rough. These were two guys that just did not have the chemistry going. I don't know if it's the them thing, if it was just a bad night. I don't know. Everything in this match seemed a step off. This is honestly one of Moxley's worst matches in AEW. Naito looked haggard, tired.
Let me jump in here. Naito looked like he didn't give a shit, Tim.
Yeah,
he looked like
absolutely.
He didn't give a shit. He was on this card. He looked like he didn't give a shit about Moxley, and he looked like he didn't give a shit that this was for the IWGP title. He looked like he didn't give a shit. That was the biggest standout to me.
I mean, here's the thing. That's kind of Naito's gimmick in a way, but in this case, it seemed like he legitimately did not
I understand that, but it was like, I mean, oh.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It looked like he didn't give a damn. They were off from literally the opening bell. I was sitting there just going, by about halfway through, I'm like, okay, take it home. Let's just get to this main event. It's getting late, and you're dying on the vine out here, guys. Which normally I come on these shows and praise Mox. I'm a huge fan of Mox, but this was a bad night, and I mean, Naito just, I think he comes over here because he has to, because he's a New Japan. I don't think he wants to. I don't think he cares about AEW. I think that's a legitimate shoot. I think he doesn't just care about, I don't think he cares about AEW at all. And I think he was like, okay, I'm going to go out here and win this belt because I can finally get my belt back and then take it back to Japan. Bye. See you later. Where do I pick up my check? And yeah, this was honestly the absolute worst match on the show. And I'm talking the pre-show. And I'm including other than a Serpentico Kyle Fletcher match that you can't read for the pre-show, this was the worst match on the show.
Yeah,
I
guess you're not wrong.
I was shocked. I was shocked at how bad this was. I really can't say anything more than what Tim just said. I know everybody has bad nights, but I can't remember the last time Mox looked that bad either. And I know a lot has to do with your opponent and how things are going, but Mox didn't look good. Naito didn't look good. Naito's the champ now. Let me ask you this, Tim. Who is going to take the IWGP title off Naito?
I'm thinking it's Wrestle Kingdom. I'm thinking Zack Sabre Jr. wins the G1. I think he wins the belt. I'm calling it.
Boom, I like it.
I'm going all in on ZSJ.
Quick to the point. On July 2nd at 8:14 p.m., Tim Regal says Naito's going to drop the belt to Zack Sabre Jr. at Wrestle Kingdom. I love it. I love it. What do you think about this announcement to coincide with Wrestle Kingdom? This big pay-per-view that all these companies are partnering in on.
I mean, obviously, it's going to be in the Tokyo Dome right then and there. That makes it a big deal. It's in the Dome. They've done 2-night Wrestle Kingdoms for a few years back. I think last year was one night, but they're going by this. But they're bringing it in with a little bit different spin. They're bringing in Wrestle Universe. It's going to be AEW, CMLL, New Japan. Obviously, they threw the Ring of Honor branding, which means we're going to get a Ring of Honor title match probably on the show. But probably some Noah, because there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of companies working together over there. This is going to be a big deal. I am very excited to see it. That's one of those might be getting up in the middle of the night. We've always joked about doing an all-nighter at the Low Pies Pizza, and maybe that might be the time for that one. No, I thought that was great. You want to end on a positive spin, CZ? We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to say excellent pre-show matches on this show too. We didn't go in depth on them, but really good pre-show matches on this show. I thought everything on the pre-show was good. Definitely, if you have time, go back and check out the women's tag match. I thought was excellent. Willow Nightingale is an absolute star. Chris Statlander coming into her own as a heel. I think that feud is just heating up and getting going. And I loved how they had the two Stardom women do the finish. That way, both ladies in the AEW feud that is just getting started were protected. And then your last match, the six-man match, LIJ versus the Lucha Bros and Mystico. Just what you want on a pre-show match. 10 minutes of guys just doing moves, doing flips. I am a huge fan of Yota Tsuji. I think he's a guy that maybe 2 years down the road you're going to see in one of those big Forbidden Door matches. I think he is a guy that's going to be right there. But I'll end on a positive note. I'll say if you got time, go check out the pre-show matches because they're actually all really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll have to take a look at those myself. So, gentlemen, that's going to put a bow on Forbidden Door. Obviously, we've discussed it. The door isn't as forbidden as it once was, but we've got some fun stuff coming up here. I'm going to make a big announcement. First, I'm going to talk about next week. We'll be reviewing both Heat Wave and Money in the Bank. Not sure what time we're going to do that. Most likely immediately following Heat Wave on Sunday night. The following week, we have John Bonhart, SCW Pro QC Cup holder. John Bonhart coming on. The big announcement, I'm not going to talk about the date yet, but I'm just going to give you a little preview. I'm super excited. We've got a big guest coming in July, and his name is Jake Christ, former Pro Wrestling Revolver champion, former Impact X Division champion. I'm super excited. Stay tuned for more on that in the coming weeks. Any final thoughts on Forbidden Door before we close out?
Striker asks here real quick, and I guess we can go around the room and give it a letter grade or whatever you want. Out of 10, how would you guys rank it? I would give this card top to bottom. As much as I enjoyed the show, I'd give it a high B plus. Not quite an A minus, but a high B plus, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. A high B plus. I'd probably put it right around an 8 out of 10 if I were doing a number ranking. I'd say that's right on par. Tim?
I'm right there with you, CZ. I'm right in that 8, teetering on an 8.5 range. The big stuff, with the exception of the one match, everything delivered. A lot of it over delivered. Fine top to bottom. Like I said, it might not have been the most OMG Forbidden Door, but it was a really solid, really good pro wrestling show, which I will always say, no matter where the team, some of the creative might be, AEW on pay-per-view, the floor is so high. There's never been a bad AEW pay-per-view. I will say that. And this was no different. This was a fantastic pay-per-view. This is at some point, I'll throw it back on. This is one of those shows you can throw back on and watch if you need some background or you just want to chill out and watch some good wrestling for a day. Absolutely pick that up. Yeah, great show top to bottom.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, that does it for this edition of Card Subject to Change. Want to remind you, if you're a fantasy football fan, go over to FFSQC on either Facebook or X. Sign up for our Toys for Tots League. It's a great cause for charity. Those of you who watch our podcast and are big wrestling fans, the one called Manders is going to be our celebrity guest representing the Card Subject to Change podcast. So you can compete against him or any other local celebrities here in the Quad Cities. For our good friend and guest, Mr. Timothy Regal, for my tag team partner, Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. We will see you next Sunday right here on Card Subject to Change. Have a good night, everybody.